The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to connect with our affiliate sponsor, GSM Growth Agency. They're boosting e-commerce businesses to 6 and 7 figures in revenue and cover everything from ads and social media influencers to making your website better. GSM Growth Agency focuses on taking businesses from startup success to bigger success, going above and beyond to make sure growth sticks around. They're all about cool ideas, lasting partnerships, and making your mark in the e-commerce world. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services. Hello. Hey, I am Mitch Beinhacker, host of the show. We're back here for another episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. We got a tech entrepreneur today. We're going to talk to Ben in a minute, and hopefully it doesn't get too technical for me, but I'm sure he'll walk me through it. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast directory, leave us a 5-star review whenever you can. If you're watching us on YouTube, like the channel, subscribe so we can keep connecting with guys like Ben. So let's get on with today's show.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests, where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode. All right, Ben. So thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for accommodating my time change. I appreciate that. Where are you located?
I'm in the Dallas area.
So like maybe an hour behind, 2 hours behind?
Yeah, Central Time.
Got it. So it's like Central Time makes it like 1 o'clock, or is it 2 hours behind?
No, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Okay, not too bad. All right. So why don't we go back, because I mentioned in the opening, that you're a tech entrepreneur. Why don't we go back to, how'd you get started? How'd you learn everything that you're doing? I'm always curious about, what kind of training people have these days.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like my entrepreneurial journey goes all the way back to my paper route when I was 13 years old. I love, love that. And so, first couple of businesses, as I was learning, I call them entrepreneurial, where I just jumped in as a developer, helping manage the team and helping control the framework and the architecture and how we were going to do the action of digital product development. And so the first company was an online travel company. And the great thing about the online travel company was there was no cloud, and most of what we were doing, interacting with legacy mainframe systems, was all new. So from the hosting of the high-end website or highly available website to being able to make sure that these travel sites were converting, it was all very much homegrown, and so it's very much the garage style startup, right?
Was it the early days of like consolidation, or were you doing sites for travel agencies, or what was going on?
We actually built an online travel agency, like a travel agency brand. We were running like Sam's Club Travel, Walmart Travel, but
Oh,
then we had 3 or 4 brands ourselves.
okay.
And about 70 million in travels where we got to.
Oh, wow. And are you a programmer by training?
By background, yeah. Yeah, I
Got it.
started out
So what?
programming.
Yeah. So what are they? My son's in programming. I should know this. Does a lot of informatics stuff. All the online data stuff.
Yeah.
What are you programming? Is it like Python, or is it another language?
At this point, even at Particle, we're we call it like polyglot, or the language has stopped mattering because many of the languages are just very slight derivatives in syntax.
Okay.
And then it's really a matter of like following the menu. I would say fluency is something that you get over time where you're a little bit faster, but like learning any language, once you understand kind of the grammatical construction of the language, then it's just a matter of increasing your vocabulary. And we can use references for that. And now with AI helping us, the fluency really is even an easier challenge to overcome.
Yeah.
And what we really need to know is what is the right way to build what the business wants to build. Like what's the shortest path between where we are today and where they want to go
to make it work. Well, that makes sense because he joined a company that has some proprietary language, and he said, "Dad, it's really not that different. It's just some nuances, but for the most part, you can learn it pretty quickly."
That's right.
You know how to program. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so so my mom used to be a travel agent years and years ago, and the business I know has changed a lot. So what happened with that business? Did it get sold? Get changed?
Yeah. So the originating company that I grew up in was really great. I had a mentor named Henry Wang, who's no longer with us, but he was amazing. He was an MIT Harvard guy, and he kind of tore me apart and put me back together again. And no, the kind of the end story of that business was we were cooking with gas, 70 million in travel, but Terra Lycos, this is a history lesson.
Okay.
Terra Lycos was divesting most of their investments. And we also had major investment from one of the major GDSs. And so we were starting to see the merits of a multi-GDS system. And so they're like, well, then we're going to divest you. And so then we were sold, and the company we were sold to had no cash controls, and they nosedived the company in 18 months.
Just burned through everything.
I mean, we had a very cost-effective data center in West Texas that had, the cost of living was pretty low there, inexpensive bilingual call center agents that are all trained in the mainframe GDS systems. So they could do all the travel bookings and do all the on-phone support.
Got it.
And by the end of it, when Chapter 11 was declared, there was a call center in Las Vegas and a call center in Atlanta, and those were never profitable. I mean, the cost to operate those call centers was way too high. So nosedived the company, and I was able to go from there to a travel marketing company. That was one of kind of the first of its kind. It was it was a vertical ad network, and so vertical ad networks go talk to a very specific niche of customers, of publishers who have digital content and they want to monetize that content. And then the vertical ad network helps them monetize the content by taking the collective sites, all these destination guide sites, and then selling those to major advertisers. Over time, we made that really sophisticated, where if you were like looking at New York to London content, then we could go sell that data to Virgin Atlantic to make sure that they were marketing you. Like if you're a New York to London traveler, of course they want you as a customer.
Right.
And then I was able to replicate that in finance as well and do a vertical ad network in finance.
So it sounds like a lot of your entrepreneurial stuff was not as traditional as you think of like a local business guy, right? So because a lot of it's tech-based, a lot of it's virtual, a lot of it is probably less, like you didn't have, 3,000 employees, right? You had the call center, which was, I guess, subcontracted. So it was a little bit different kind of a structure. I specifically look for businesses that are where the core business is very much behind the times. Travel, who wants, like the internet is here. Right. This was back in 2001. So the internet is here, but you're still having people call you on the phone or even come in and sit down. Sure. That was the early internet, right? I mean, early 90s, maybe you started hearing about the internet, but
Yeah, but it was
once
clear that it was going to have to change
right.
the way we, and you already had, like, when we started that, Travelocity and Expedia already existed in
No, they
some
did.
degree.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So airlines and stuff, they're already starting to like go around the professionals. Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're like travel agencies in that traditional dial, call me on the phone sense needed to modernize. People wanted to shop competitive fares from their home, right?
Right.
They wanted to see what was the best time I should go. How can I save a few bucks?
Yeah.
And so we needed to enable that. We ended up having air, car, hotel, vacation packages, cruises, all of that by the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking for an industry that's just a little bit behind. The latest one I did was a legal services company called LegalInc.
Okay.
And just because legal services is still very much behind the time, most of what they're doing is interacting with state government to file the LLC, or
Of course.
you know all about
Yeah,
this
I use
stuff.
all those services, deed filings, things you can't do in other states. Yeah.
Yeah,
There are
UCC
some-
liens, all that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So, so we created an automation package and a whole online system, and then we sold to LegalZoom in 3 years. So I started that business in 2015 with a co-founder, and then by 2018 we had sold it to LegalZoom.
Yeah. And those are retail based services. Like I'm not your customer of that
With
business.
LegalInc, you would have been. We loved small law firms because what our vision was for the legal services was the up funnel solution that was multi-entity above LegalZoom. Like LegalZoom does really good with single entity
Right.
kind of DIY solution.
Simple stuff. Yeah, exactly.
But when you have multiple entities in multiple states, then where do you go, right? And then who we're really trying to displace was like Wolters Kluwer and the CSC and the ones that are managing Fortune 5000 entity and compliance.
They're so hard to deal with, by the way, as a small practitioner.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, I'm like, can't you just file this and this? And it's like they talk another language.
Yeah, that's right. In recent, I'll give a shout out to Mosey. Mosey's a new brand that started really out of the these were guys that we worked with at Stripe, that we were using the LegalInc platform to serve at Stripe, and then they went on and really are really doing a good work in that next tier up. But I'm still very much connected with that industry, and have helped a lot of people with like that automation stack between state government and their proprietary products and systems.
Right. Well, probably in those days, I mean, almost every state commercial recording department is online. In those days, it wasn't. You still had to, I could submit some of the stuff online, but a lot of it was I had to fax it in, and now they don't even let you fax. Like, you have to do it online.
Yeah. So we've created a bunch of RPA robots to do that, and we've helped people with the kind of digital workforce automation or robotic process automation, whatever you want to call it. That experience, LegalInc and LegalZoom, has been helpful to other folks.
It's like a dashboard that would automate this stuff. But wasn't some of the stuff had to be done manually behind the scenes? Because there must have been some states that weren't equipped to accept things electronically, right?
Well, that's you're doing it like the human would do it. So the human is going to the website and entering it in. We're creating robots that do that.
Got it. Okay. All right. Got it. Well, so when you say behind the times, it's usually the technology is behind the times. They're not.
Yeah, just the industry in it as a whole. Like I love placing bets where there's a significant barrier to modernize in. And then with Particle, what we're really focused on is application modernization.
Okay.
So you're a business that did you did a digital transformation back in 2015, or even way before that, right? So now you're seeing that, man, the solution that I have is it's not something that I can easily tap AI into. It's antiquated.
Right.
The people who I have are trying to retire or leave.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's cumbersome and it's slow and it's really not meeting your current business needs today. We've had the pleasure of doing some Delphi, some COBOL applications, some really old legacy applications, even some Java applications that were just built as one big pile of mud instead of being broken up. And what's happening in those situations is we're able to leverage AI to do the coding or assist with the coding. We're able to leverage modern cloud services to manage the data. And so they're very quickly ending up in like, they're going from like losing market share to becoming the market leader again, because we're doing these modernization products, and they're able to listen to their customers' actual wishes and needs in their industry. And they're able to jump from like losing ground to now gaining it.
Any specific industries that you're looking at right now, you're working with?
It's been a mixed bag. It's just wherever these, we're very industry agnostic. We've done stuff in healthcare, e-commerce, all over the board.
Now, when it comes to like AI programming, are they all the traditional stuff? Or are there special AI engines that programmers are using that the general public doesn't really know too much about? Like, can I go to ChatGPT and say, write me this code in Python, or that's not really going to work?
Yeah, you can. The problem with ChatGPT is you can't curate the source.
Right.
So what they've seen is a lot of errors come in because the source that ChatGPT has used has been really question and answer sites.
Right.
That even the question was wrong. ChatGPT doesn't know that the question is wrong. It then got corrected in the comments. And so you can get a lot of inaccurate results from that. But there have been code-specific language models that are assisting folks, and there are also situations where it just doesn't work. We work on a VR solution for a safety company right now, where we're creating the virtual reality experiences, and the underlying physics engine and environmental engine is proprietary. So the AI can never know about that, and we don't want to.
We don't want them to know, right?
Yeah, we don't want them to know. So, so in this instance, we very much need to. We're not going to get any assistance in that. That's going to be a good old fashioned, just code it up. Yeah.
So that's a training device.
Yeah, if you if you wanted to have somebody train forklift operation or safe patient handling or Next Wave Safety is our client. They're a great company. If you're have a high risk training thing, it's something that's dangerous to train. Gun safety comes to my mind, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Training gun safety seems risky. You have to have a very certified instructor.
Yeah, right.
That's right. So if you were to do that training with a $300 headset, and then the cost of the training material one time, and then you were able to see some repetition in the virtual reality environment. Now you go, okay, well now we can come into a classroom or a training ground and see if that learning has taken place.
Virtually, you mean? Got it. Yeah. Interesting. So tell me about. I know this is getting back to basics a little bit, but tell me about the business process. You're an entrepreneur. So how do you build these companies? You're writing business plans traditionally and you're doing this or that, or that's not really how it happens in the tech world?
Yeah. So for me, I've always been a little more on the tech side, but as I go, I learn more about general business, and then I'm an avid reader. I'm in some mastermind groups, and now being a CEO, of course, now it's all, I'm not the kind of CTO that doesn't pay attention to the marketing plan or the. So as I do CTO advisory for customers, like fractional CTO work,
sure,
I'm very much mindful of the other functions of accountability, like what's the finance teammates saying? What's our sales strategy? And I'm kind of a student of all the business, all the entrepreneurial disciplines.
Right.
And really because I think technology is a servant to those other accountabilities. We're really serving them to leverage technology as a means of getting where they want to go. So yeah, we're looking into, and we're marketing for ourselves. We're selling our services. So as an entrepreneur, I feel like in the last 5 years or so, I've really had to be well-rounded, not just the the tech guy. But when I was doing like the fun story about Legal Inc. is when I met my partner, he bet me he bet me that my LLC wasn't in good standing. And sure enough, I was in default status at the
Somewhere,
Secretary
right?
of State.
That's so funny.
And so I was like, okay, like, what are you really talking about here? I didn't even know there was this thing called annual reports. And
you're supposed to be getting notices. I don't know where they're going.
yeah, they were going into LegalZoom land, and then I wasn't getting them, right.
Right.
And even when I'd get them, I didn't know if it was junk mail or,
Right.
I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So I read this statistic once, and I don't know if it's true, but I think 60% of newly formed LLCs go into default status after the first year, because that's how they learn, right? There's nobody really advising them.
Exactly. Well, they've been told already that they're getting junk mail. They don't pay attention to it. I obviously form a lot of entities for people, and I manage the entities for people. And the ones that are on retainer to me, where I'm their fractional general counsel, just like you're a CTO, right, outside CTO. That's where I start. I start by saying, send me all of your up-to-date filings. And there's always something missing. Now with the business owner information report, beneficial ownership information report with FinCEN, nobody knows what that is. And I've sent out more emails to people, told them to do this. Did you do your FinCEN filing? They go, what's that? I go, then you didn't do it. And I don't know how they're going to police that. I've had some entities say, hey, do I need to file this? I'm like, yeah, you're about 6 months late, but yeah, let's file it. I don't know if they're going to get a bill for a violation or something. I don't know how they're going to manage that, but that's something that is coming about that nobody really knows. And by the way, you're in Texas. I don't know what's going on in Texas. New York has its own corporate transparency act right now that's being argued about. So if that goes into effect, you're going to you're in New York, you got to file 2 times.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I mean, this is great for you.
Right.
This is great for legal tech, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's just creating, it's really just creating work for me to empower digitally, like to automate,
right?
And then for you to advise around and offer audits. One of the products we built at Legal Inc. was we called it internally we called it Gold Digger, because what we were looking for was out of compliance units of rep, exactly. And so we could go and say, whoever you're using, it doesn't work,
right? So
let us be your RA. Let us take care of this.
Well, of course, of course.
And so so we're kind of like a real-time monitoring service for all of our RA units.
No, that's a crazy rabbit hole to go down. So as a CTO, as an outside organization, how many companies you're working with at any given time? This is through Particle 41?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So right now we have 20 client engagements.
Okay.
We have a lot of capacity for more. We love working with people. I have a personal goal to bring on at least 5 fractional CTO or CTO advisory clients, just because I love helping people figure out what their next move is. And we've also
you're not
developed
really the guy in charge of business development. You're the guy who oversees the guy who's in charge of business, right? You're the CEO.
No, I think that the more direct path is what wins in software and consulting.
Yeah.
Removing any and all layers of bullshit is key, right?
Makes sense.
So, I could see a future. I think the common advice would be to displace myself there. And if I found the right person, I think there'd be a great chemistry there.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to be that, be the core advisor on the front end,
the face.
And then as we work into execution, then I have some wonderful teammates that can help with that. But yeah, I'm a little selfish with the being able to figure out the right strategy. I want to be that technical co-founder for as many people as I can be,
right?
And leverage that past success.
At some point though, you want to leverage yourself, right? And you can't be everything to everybody. So
absolutely. And there's many aspects of the business. Right? Yeah. Many aspects of the business where that's totally true. I have a wonderful team that takes care of most everything, but I just love building the relationships.
Yeah, that's important. Okay, so this is a good question because you're the guy who's staying on the front line, still dealing with clients. What do you see is a common problem or mistake or things that are wrong from a technology standpoint, in businesses that you're coming across? There's got to be some some common threads you're like, oh yeah, I see that all the time?
Lately, I notice, because I'm interrogating my own leadership, that I
Mhm.
see, I really notice leadership dysfunction,
Yeah.
speed of decision making, just, vision, being clear about the outcomes. So I see where leaders are kind of stubbing their toes,
Yeah.
and then not getting the most out of their team. And I wouldn't say I see that across the board, but that's just super noticeable. And
Yeah.
it may
Definitely.
be all clear for a while, and then it kind of resurfaces. So
Right.
definitely see that, and I love to help coach through that and just laying that foundation, because where we find that digital projects are the most productive
Hmm.
is when the leadership is about 6 weeks ahead of execution.
Okay.
That's where we see maximum productivity, where the team knows what's coming. Just, and not that you have to have the whole year defined. You don't have to go into a deep dark hole and design
But you're planned
what.
out.
Yeah, but as long as you know what the really, if you know what the one things are, the focus areas are, what the outcomes you desire for at least the next 6 weeks from the tech initiatives and all of that, they're able to come to you and say, okay, well, we have these ideas. This might be a faster way we could accomplish that. But like getting really clear on like the next 6 weeks, man, tech teams can fly with that. They can really move quick.
Is that because it's giving them the foresight of where they're going down the road, and then they can say, wait a second, we can do this better this way, or
Yeah, it also prevents the communication queuing. Like, I have a question. Okay, wait, I need to,
right.
the context switching of like, okay, I need to get some of my most strategic people, the product people or the senior people on the client side. I need to now pivot them back towards the question and give clarity. Like that back and forth to achieve clarity is very, very costly. So if you can get out in front of them and streamline the path to clarity, man, you just move.
They have
You know,
less questions and issues.
that's right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about it from a tech standpoint. I just had a conversation with somebody this morning who's also was in corporate for a long time. She's not in tech, but she does a lot of coaching now, was in management, procurement, logistics, all that type of stuff, and learned to run teams very effectively. And then people started saying, well, will you help us in this department? Then she went out and started her own company. She's like, why don't I do this for other people? But it's not tech related, but it's the same problem, right? Everybody they lack the ability to make decisions and do them effectively. And if you're not doing strategic planning or laying out a roadmap or knowing what the next turn in the road is, then you're really just, you're only a day ahead of where you are. You're just thinking about tomorrow. You're not thinking about where you need to be in a month.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have some materials that we walk people through around the cone of uncertainty.
Okay.
And so we talk about like you need to be super certain in that, in that 30 to 45 day window, like hyper certainty. At 60, if you can say, hey, these are the kinds of things I think we will do next. And then 90, you have your 90-day goals and how you're going to measure success towards those. That cone of certainty allows you to do all kinds of things. It allows you to be creative, allows you to be innovative, allows you to move quickly, stay focused. And so we call it that cone of uncertainty. If you have things in there that are certain up front, and then you're also not thrashing the team by saying, oh wait, I had this great idea, we need to
Right.
we
Stop
need to work it.
turning and pivoting, and you never get anything done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the 90 days, like,
After 90
sure,
days, things are changing anyway. So
that's
more
right.
than that, you just naturally hit uncertainty. There's just too many things are going to happen in those 90 days that's going to affect, in the 60 days, it's going to affect the outcome of the next month and so forth. So you always got to be, but they're always planning ahead, right? So as you go into the next next 30 days, so you're in the 60-day window, you should be clearing up the next month, right? I mean, that should all be coming together.
Yeah, and not trying to pull your chips off the table with uncertainty, right? Like, we will achieve these certain sets of goals or die trying in the 90 days. So just because I learned something new or I get a little shaken up doesn't mean I take those things off the table. it's like then I recalibrate. EOS is super good
Oh yeah, traction. I like that program.
at
Yeah.
the 90-day recalibration cycles where they'll have a whole day planning, do the 90-day plan, figure out even like down to the week what the one things are that need to happen.
Right.
And then okay, now we have another planning. Still have your annual goals mapped out, but there's this big opportunity to recalibrate every 90 days, and it's a hardcore focus day that you're devoting to that. I think that's phenomenal because one, it offers time compression. So the work doesn't expand to fill the space. You're a cure for Parkinson's law.
Get it done.
And then,
yeah.
And then two, you're not so, that if you can just make it to the next quarterly meeting, then you can pivot, but within the cycle, you're committed. You're committed to your the things that you decided with certainty.
You're going to stick with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that comes, you mentioned before, with, leadership and what's the word? Empowerment, right? I mean, even with small companies, I think a lot, and I say this all the time, I think a lot of small companies overlook the importance of leadership and clarity and empowering the people that are doing things so they enjoy their job, have ownership in the company. They think it's like that happens at Johnson & Johnson and, Microsoft and big companies where they have leadership training and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't apply to me as a small business owner. I can just tell people what to do and it'll all work out, which we know it doesn't. So obviously that doesn't work. But the environments where people are happy and do have, vision and clarity about what they need to do, and they are empowered to do it, obviously they accomplish a lot more. And then they have higher, less turnover, happier people. All this, I'm sure you see the environments, right? You come into environments terrible. Hopefully by the time you leave, it's a lot better than when you got there.
Yeah. I also see this interesting trend that the senior most person in the tech org uses solution language, not results language. So this is there's probably a better way of saying this, but most C teams will use results language, and then they go turn to their tech team and they say, okay, these are the results we want. And they get back a bunch of solution language that they don't fully understand. They just, okay, well, that sounds good.
Right.
The flex capacitor needs to be flexier. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I think your senior most technology folks need to understand how to talk in that results language. They need to be responsible. And a lot of times a senior developer will get promoted to that senior role, and they're very solutions oriented people, not results oriented people. And we put our project managers at Particle 41 through a lot of training so that they can understand the subject matter on the solution side and understand what the team is saying, but also not take their eye off the result that the business is targeting. And then we use the software development principles like agile and different to drive that process, but we don't. I come into a lot of businesses that are having a major issue between the tech partner talking in solutions and the business talking in results, and not enough currency to connect those two in a way that the business can understand. And I think that's dysfunctional. I think the business should be demanding to be spoken to, like, got to answer when I'm going to get the next thing and how that's going to help my business. If you can't keep that in my mind, the visible plan,
right?
Then it invites a lot of missed opportunity for expectation management.
Well, they're just kind of saying, well, I don't understand it. So, I mean, Ben, you know what you're doing. So,
yeah, well, and then they get a year down the road and they're not where they thought they would be.
And it's like, this isn't working the way we want. And you on the other side don't understand what they're looking for, and it gets complicated. Why don't we take a few minutes for commercials, and then we'll come back and maybe we could talk about the kind of tools that you see that you're implementing for business owners. Like, what kind of, as a small business owner, I'm obviously not programming things from scratch. So what kind of tools am I using to manage my company, to manage my supply chain, whatever it is? Is that a conversation we can have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, let's take a commercial.
Here's a word from our sponsors.
Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running. AWeber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. AWeber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Are you struggling with managing advertising due to a lack of time or expertise? Perhaps you're facing challenges in scaling ads for your store. Are you feeling lost when strategies have no success? GSM Growth Agency is your reliable partner in overcoming these business challenges. Feel the impact of collaborating with a team dedicated not only to short-term goals, but also to building long-term partnerships and achieving sustained success. Embark on an exciting journey to redefine the possibilities of e-commerce and create a legacy of unparalleled excellence. Take decisive action now. Follow their link in the show notes to receive a complimentary audit of your Shopify store conducted by a GSM expert. Propel your e-commerce game to new heights with GSM Growth Agency. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show. All right, Ben. So we were starting to talk. So yeah, as a small business owner, me too, right? I'm just a small law firm. I deal with small companies. I'm not hiring somebody to do custom programming of things. So I have to use off the shelf things, and there's one thing that does everything. There's different things and APIs that connect them, and the way I automate things probably not as effectively as I could be. So what are you doing for small business owners? Like, are you coming in? I mean, maybe you can lay it out for me instead of me asking you.
Yeah.
Tools.
No, so the first thing we do is there's two things, and they're very much kind of the similar conversation. So we have a periodic table of business tools,
okay,
which is kind of like your chemistry chart with the different columns being solids, liquids, gases. The different columns are CRM, accounting software.
Mm-hmm.
These categories, and we've done the research to know what's in the upper right quadrant in Gartner. If you're off this chart, then you're probably going to start running into some limitations, or maybe you're an early adopter of something that will eventually end up on the chart. Both could be true.
Makes sense, right?
And then we're
new program or somebody to come out with.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we're looking at these. We use a really cool tool called 15.5 for performance management. It's a great tool. Now you need a certain number of employees for that to be worthwhile for you, but it's a great tool for managing employee engagement.
It's an evaluation tool.
It helps us do our biannual performance assessments where people are reviewing other people, and it holds all of that. So there's all kinds of tools that are available that, small, couple $100 to a couple $100 subscriptions a month, and you can have a really cool, mostly automated small business.
Mm-hmm.
And so we take those and we create your unique particle, and then we start talking about the customer experience through that ecosystem. And as we're doing that, we start to look at
their customer, not them as
their customer.
Got it.
Because like for your law firm, for example, you have certain things that you have the marketing area, kind of the unknown to known,
right.
And then, the actual service delivery, and then they fall out, and then you're reharvesting them, whatever your customer experience is.
Right.
And then what we think about is then this idea of high value versus high need. So high need are these items like you're going to need place to store your data.
Okay.
So let's pick the best partner for you based on the other tools that you have. For example, if you're already using Office 365, you'll probably want to use their document storage product, or
With
you might want to use SharePoint, or yeah, exactly.
right.
If you're
a medical professional, you have HIPAA issues, right? It just varies by the industry.
That's right. And if you're already a Google Workspace customer, then you're probably using Google Docs, and you're using Slack rather than Teams. And um, what we often see when we come into businesses is they've picked one tool. They think that the tool would make the difference. So they've started to do some amount of tool switching, and tool switching is really, it's expensive. So they end up 90% of the way there on their customer experience, and then they switch to another tool and they're 90% of the way there, but that 10% is in a different way.
Right.
So then in the high value category is usually the way that you really want to be different in your customer experience.
Okay.
And this is where custom is really great. This is where my company builds products that really move the business forward, because they're unique experiences that matter to the brand and differentiate. So for some businesses, it's a portal to see all this unique data that's been collected and a unique experience to walk through a workflow. For others, it might be, there's already, it might be a mobile app, right? Like if I just had this mobile app, then like Instagram is a mobile app. If it wasn't a custom mobile app, if it was some proprietary software that you could get off the shelf from somewhere, nobody would use it. It's because it's differentiated. And so in that high value category, that's where we feel like custom is worth the investment. What we see create problems almost all the time is when the off the shelf software, people do this with Salesforce all the time, where they take the Salesforce product and then they put that in front of the customer, and then they hit limitations, and there's things that they want to do to make the customer experience better. But they can't do them because they're struggling with the limitations of that proprietary software. So yeah, we spend a lot of time in this so that it's very clear to the small business why and what exactly they want. Integrations is a great thing. Sure, you can go do a Zapier plugin, but I've redone a bunch of Zapier plugins that got them just a little bit there, but not quite enough to fully satisfy what they want out of that customer experience.
Yeah, the off-the-shelf APIs, they kind of get you there a little bit, but if there's any kind of a quirk or something different, doesn't work.
Yeah, we just did one in a marketing funnel where the Zapier plugin was putting the leads into HubSpot, but it wasn't providing enough data. The business was allowing calendar meetings were kind of the call to action, book a meeting. But there were multiple different kinds of those calendar events.
Yeah.
But those events weren't fully segmenting the customer within HubSpot. So we dug in there a little bit and made that integration a little cleaner, because they were literally having to have somebody go through and do some tagging of the contacts in HubSpot just to know, okay, well, these were from that thing and these were for this thing. And so just doing a custom API there was a huge benefit to the small business.
HubSpot basically wasn't getting enough data to make the decisions that you wanted it to make, right?
Yeah. The contact was getting into HubSpot, but the specifics, the specific context around that contact getting in there was not being fed all the way through with the off-the-shelf plugin integration.
Yeah, I understand that, because I used to use Streak as a CRM, really as a way to follow track cases. And when the cases were done, I would drop them into a closed matters funnel, and that funnel, the API would take their email and put it into my list and then send them a review letter. Thank you for your business. Can you review us online? Whatever. Well, first of all, Streak started charging, wasn't free anymore. So then I was like, well, if it's not free, maybe it's not the best thing for me. So I moved over to Monday.com, but now I'm having trouble automating that. I have to do it by hand. I keep a list and then I drop them in the CRM. And once they're in the CRM sends the letter, but it's getting it from one to the other. That's always a challenge. Yeah. And I think I guess with program custom, you don't have this problem, but when you're using off the shelf stuff, they update something and it could break whatever it is you have in place.
Sure. So you need a company like us on a bat phone that says, "Hey,
This
something's
isn't working.
changed," or
Right.
yeah. And we have a specific service. We call it DevOps as a service, or it's really that you pay a subscription for us to be around, much probably how you do some of your small business law subscriptions,
Yeah, like a
so
retainer,
that
a monthly retainer.
if
Yeah.
you have an issue and you need something to be updated, a lot of people will build a mobile app. The mobile app's super successful, does exactly, differentiates the company. People are super happy to just open a mobile app to know exactly what's going on with the product or service. But now iOS, next version's coming out. Android next version's
Doesn't
coming
work.
out.
Yeah.
And so, so we basically said, hey, we're here to help you. You pay the subscription. We'll keep an eye on the resources of the app, make sure there's no issues going on. And if an error pops in, we're monitoring that. And then when it's upgrade time, we'll do the upgrade for you.
So, Ben, if you're a company of, let's say you're a small company, 2 to 5 employees, including owners and so forth, and you have a few $1 million in revenue every year, are you affordable to them? I mean,
Yeah, I make my CTO advisory service very palatable, and there's a couple tiers.
Yeah, mine is.
Yeah, so they can jump in, they can get some of this analysis. I can work with them. Really, for some small businesses, hiring a CTO, it's a big salary that you have to be able to afford.
Oh, ridiculous.
For many businesses, it's not actually directly related to revenue.
Right.
If you're creating a digital product, it might be, but what if you're not creating a digital product? What if you're more of a service oriented business?
Yeah.
And so, having access to a CTO fractionally can help you make sure all your IT plans, security, right, all of that is in order. But we also do this without requiring equity. So most CTOs will require a big salary and some kind of equity. So yeah, we're affordable.
Yeah.
We're affordable for that kind of a business. A couple million in revenue is fine. And the idea is that with the right automation, you can keep costs low, but increase and scale, right?
Yeah. No, people don't even, they're like, how do you do this with your practice? I said, well, it took time to figure it out, talking to guys like you and testing different things and saying, I want to do this, maybe it will or won't. But it's funny because we have parallels with our business, because as a fractional general counsel, I don't drive any revenue. If anything, I stop problems from happening, lawsuits and employee problems and things like that. But, they can't afford to have a full-time person either. Who's going to come work for them for, I guess, my 60,000 a year or whatever, ultimately, right at the end of the day, is a fractional. Nobody who has any skills. So you run into all those issues, like you said, like they found with Legal Inc., where all these issues are overlooked. I guess in your area, it eventually gets discovered because somebody says, hey, I heard from this person that this thing doesn't work. But in my end, you won't know about it until you get like a notice sent from the state saying, hey, you haven't filed this for 4 years and you got to pay it.
Yeah, or what we really saw is the guys at the bank trying to get a check out of escrow. And they're like, no, you can't have your loan money because you're not in good standing.
Yeah.
So you got to go fix that first.
Yeah.
And then they're calling, they were calling any legal service company that would help them get out of the bank at 2:00 in the afternoon with their check in hand.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, it's the same thing for us. It's one of those kind of calls for me is, hey, we just had a BitBlocker attack, or my site won't load. We're having performance problems, and that's where having somebody at hand.
They panic.
Yeah.
I've had it happen. My website went down. No, I don't sell. I'm not an e-commerce company, but people do go there. They do searches, and then somebody says your website's not coming up. I call my people. I'm like, what the hell? And they didn't even know. They're supposed to get notification, but sometimes it's the user end, though. It's not our end, but who knows?
Well, and I just also, I also am kind of a mediator between vendor relationships. So, I have several CTO advisory customers that they're like, oh, my tech team is so awful. And I get in there and I'm like, hey, okay, let's see what's actually going on. Even though, we offer tech teams, I've walked into many situations and just said, hey, okay, well, what's really going on?
Right.
How did we, and do a little bit of a context and history lesson, but get the two parties to come together and voice those complaints to one another. And oftentimes it's very mutual. It's like, well, you didn't tell me that. I didn't know I should have built that because you didn't tell me that.
Right.
Like, okay, but are you the vendor facilitating design properly? Are you talking results language, not just solution language? And just calling balls and strikes between the two parties. Switching vendors is oftentimes the best choice, but it's also takes a moment to ramp down one and ramp up the other. And I don't want to see any business have to do anything inefficient.
Right.
So if we can just talk the right language to each other, figure out how to move their relationship forward, get to the result. Oftentimes it's just that language barrier.
Yeah, they could overlay you. I always call it blowing up the neighborhood. Like I come in, right? You're working with, and I do like employment light. I'm not an employment attorney. There's certain things I know. I'm not an IP attorney, but I file trademarks here and there, right? So you may be working with these different people. I don't need to blow up your neighborhood. And
right.
I can work with these other professionals if they're doing their job. It's just a communication issue. Maybe they're not doing their job. Maybe some of them need to be replaced. But I agree with you. It's not a good practice to just come in and just cause chaos in someone.
Yeah. And I probably talked bad about Salesforce. I don't hate Salesforce. I just think that there's like a boundary for the way that you operate internally,
right,
that it should be kept into. It shouldn't leak out into the front end customer experience.
Right.
And so sometimes I can just offer, okay, these things are good, but everything's okay in moderation.
Right.
If you get too addicted to some of these off the shelf solutions, try to use them too much, then like anything, that break in moderation can all of a sudden start to be harmful. So just keeping those guardrails on there. I probably should charge more for CTO advisory, but I just really like helping. I really like helping companies scale.
Yeah, I do the same thing for startups. Like my base package is I think $8.99 a month, but for startups, they start at $1.99 a month for the first 6 months. They don't have money; they're trying to figure it all out, and you want to help them get started. I mean, that's part of what we do. We want people to be more successful, not less successful. That's why we're talking today, right? To maybe increase their chances a little bit. Because 2 to 5 years, not good. And that doesn't include the ones that struggle after 5 years that stay in business, but still struggle with this stuff. And I find so many small business owners, they just don't really understand technology. They're afraid of it. Unless they have a tech background like you do, you go in, like you said, and they're using 4 different things. None of them talk to each other, and they're not even on the same platform. Like they're not all Google and they're not all Microsoft or
we find sorting that out right in the first couple of interactions, sorting that out, getting the lay of the land, figuring out what the top objectives are,
right,
super helpful. Because you like what you do in your role is very much, you could say it reduces risk. I don't think that's the full truth. I think you are an antidote to fear.
Yeah, there's no.
And so you just made us like, oh, they're afraid of technology. Well, I'm an antidote to fear of automation and fear of the things that need to be done.
Yeah, when you're around, they're not so afraid.
Right.
Because they're not alone. Yeah, it's the same thing. Look, things could still be screwed up behind the scenes that they don't know it. They go, well, we got Mitch. We don't have to worry about it. It's not that easy. But, well, Ben, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me. If people want to learn more about what you do, what's the best way to interact with you? Particle 41, I assume, has a website.
Yeah, we do. And our main call to action is book an appointment. So we have on our website, particle41.com, you can click, it'll schedule a meeting with me. Also on LinkedIn, if you find me, Benjamin Johnson, too common of a name to just all of a sudden find me, but you can find me through Particle 41.
Yeah.
And there too, I have a book an appointment link. So I'd love to just talk to anyone who's interacted with the show and wants to follow up and learn more. Awesome.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I can't thank you enough for changing your schedule a little bit for me. And stick around. Let's play the credits and we'll wrap things up.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.